Maybe you've noticed how a mirror can be honest without being cruel. It repeats yesterday's posture, carries last week's fatigue in the shoulders, and keeps the eyes faithful to their private weather. Yet there is another kind of mirror, the one inside your chest, that changes when your inner world changes, when attention slows and intention steadies. Imagine meeting that mirror on the morning of day 9. Imagine recognizing your face, yet sensing a different climate behind it. Less static, more sky, less rush, more room. Not a new self built by pressure, but a truer self revealed by order. 8 days is not a threat and not a miracle. It is a window that opens when you decide to breathe differently, choose differently, and arrange your life like a careful garden instead of a crowded hallway. I see the tug of war you live with. You're not lazy, you're overloaded. You're not careless, you're crowded. The world trained your nervous system to sprint on a treadmill of inputs, pings, alerts, opinions, obligations, each one promising significance, each one leaving a faint ring of fatigue around the day. Your mind never lands, so your body forgets what landing feels like. Your sleep is watered with worry, your mornings begin already borrowed from tomorrow, and the small flame of hope has learned to hide because it is so easily blown out by noise. Nothing about you is broken. You are simply carrying more signals than one's soul can metabolize, and the soul, like the body, has a rhythm. When rhythm returns, clarity returns. When clarity returns, courage follows. When courage follows, change becomes strangely gentle. There is a reason the ancient wisdom of Solomon keeps crossing centuries to find you. It is not nostalgia, and it is not superstition. It is the recognition that human flourishing has always needed the same ingredients: restraint before reaction, order before expansion, counsel before confidence, integrity before influence, and generosity guarded by boundaries. Call it practical spirituality. Call it emotional neuroscience dressed in royal garments. Call it the craft of living well when the world wants you scattered. Whatever you call it, it is not about becoming someone else. It is about recovering the you that life's speed has been smudging at the edges. For 8 days, we will honor your biology and your spirit at once. Your nervous system rests when noise decreases. Your attention sharpens when you subtract. Your prefrontal clarity strengthens when you give your brain fewer doors to run through. Your spirit rests when your yes becomes honest and your no becomes clean. The wisdom text says, there is weight in a measured tongue and strength in a self-governed life, and modern science nods along. Fewer inputs, lower baseline stress, focused effort rewires habits. Consistent rituals settle the body's alarm system. This is not punishment, and it is not perfectionism. It is a relief plan for a tired soul that still wants to lead, love, work, and heal without burning down its own house in the process. If you listen closely, you can already hear the difference between movement and momentum. Movement is flailing, momentum is focused. Movement spends, momentum compounds. You have been moving for a long time, and you've paid for it with scattered afternoons and evenings that end in a quiet apology to yourself. Momentum begins with one dignifying choice at a time. Tiny, measurable, repeatable. Less noise so you can hear your life again. Clear order so time and money stop leaking out the side door. Fewer words, but words you can stand inside without wobbling. Honest counsel that spares you from expensive detours. Work that is diligent without violence. Generosity that is warm without waste. Boundaries that are firm without hardness. None of this makes you harsh, it makes you whole. There is a tenderness in taking yourself seriously without turning against yourself. It sounds like this: I can slow down without falling behind. I can reduce inputs without becoming irrelevant. I can say less and mean more. I can invite correction without losing dignity. I can give and still guard the gate. This is not self-help theater, this is craftsmanship. Kings tended fields before they built houses, and wise people tend their inner fields before they make loud plans. The field is your attention. The field is your calendar. The field is your speech. The field is your circle. The field is your energy. When your fields are prepared, expansion no longer rips your roots, it grows them. You will notice the body speak as this begins. Breathing deep will feel strange at first, like changing lanes after a long traffic jam. Silence will feel too quiet until you realize quiet is where the signal lives and the static dies. The mind will try to bargain with you. Just one more scroll, just one more promise, just one more late night. But the heart will remember that peace tastes better than stimulation. As noise loosens its grip, you will start to hear your real questions again. What am I building that will matter when the applause ends? Where is my time actually going? Which words are leaking trust? Who is allowed to correct me before a mistake becomes a mess? What am I guarding so that my giving stays joyful instead of resentful? These questions are not accusations. They are invitations that only appear when the room is finally quiet. Expect the first change to be subtle. Not fireworks, breath, not shouting, presence. The shoulders come down a fraction, the jaw unclenches, the forehead smooths, your gaze steadies, not because circumstances become easy, but because you stop scattering yourself across every possible outcome. Inner weather calms outer posture, and people can feel it even before you speak. This is why 8 days are enough to make you unrecognizable to your past patterns. Not because you become a different person, but because your same self arrives with coherence. Coherence looks like integrity in motion. Coherence looks like promises you keep and distractions you release. Coherence looks like strength you don't have to prove. There will be moments when the old rhythm tries to reclaim you. That is not failure. That is proof that you are changing. The nervous system protects what it knows, even when what it knows is wearing you out. Be compassionate with that protective part of you. Thank it for keeping you alive in noisy seasons. Then let wisdom take the steering wheel. Compassion is not an excuse to stay the same. It is the safest way to become different. Hard truths can land softly when they arrive dressed in kindness. And kindness, when it is aligned with truth, does more than soothe, it transforms. So here is what you can hold as you step into the first of 8 days. Less noise, so your inner mirror can clear. More order, so your energy flows forward instead of sideways. Fewer words, so your promises regain their shine. Honest counsel, so blind spots become doorways. Diligent work and guarded generosity, so prosperity stops feeling like an accident and starts feeling like a harvest. 8 days is a humble span, but humility is powerful. From humility, attention rises. From attention, discernment grows. From discernment, decisions align. And from aligned decisions, a new kind of peace enters the room with you. On day 9, the mirror will still be honest, but this time it will tell a different story. One where wisdom stands quietly in the light and you stand quietly with it. There is a kind of noise that does not live in speakers or headphones. It lives in the space between thoughts, a shimmer of unfinished tabs that never truly close. It lives in the shoulders that lift without permission, and in the breath that forgets it has depth. The world teaches that more inputs mean more progress, yet the body whispers a different truth every evening when energy empties faster than purpose. What begins as curiosity becomes compulsion, and what begins as keeping up becomes being kept by everything. Wisdom takes a softer road. It says restraint before reaction. It says there is strength in choosing fewer signals so the right signals can finally be heard. The soul does not thrive in a crowded market. It thrives in a quiet garden. Silence has a texture. At first, it feels like absence, as if something precious has been taken away. Then slowly, silence begins to show itself as a presence, the way dawn arrives without fanfare and transforms a room that was already there. The nervous system softens when constant novelty stops tugging at it. The mind settles when it no longer prepares arguments against every possible interruption. Even the skin seems to breathe better when it is not being asked to brace for the next surprise. Emotional neuroscience would say that the alarms calm down and the wiser parts of the brain wake up. Ancient wisdom would say that a steady heart governs better than a restless tongue. Both ways of speaking point to the same door. Quiet is not a punishment. Quiet is permission to return. Imagine a day that begins without the scramble. Not a perfect day, simply an honest one. There is time enough for the first cup of water to be more than a refueling stop. There is room for one page of reflection to hold a sentence that matters. You notice how often the hand reaches for distraction, even when the moment is safe. You notice how the body almost expects to be pulled away, as if presence is a risk. Curiosity grows kinder when there is less to chase. Thoughts line up instead of colliding. What used to feel like boredom begins to feel like oxygen. The heart, no longer cornered by urgency, brings forward questions that are surprisingly hopeful. What would my life feel like if attention was my ally, not my prey? What would my work produce if focus was not a fight? What would my relationships sound like if my words carried weight because they were chosen, not sprayed? There is a gentle paradox here. Subtraction creates more. Not more tasks, not more noise, more meaning. By lowering the flood of signals, you raise the quality of the signal that remains. You can sense it in the way memory improves when the mind is not constantly switching lanes. You can sense it in the way patience returns when your energy is not leaking through 1,000 hairline cracks. You can sense it in the way your body stands a little taller when it is not bracing for more. What you remove is not life. What you remove is friction. Solomon would have named it restraint, a royal kind of discipline that does not need to shout. Modern science names it attention control, the simple art of doing one thing long enough to let it bloom. 2 languages, 1 reality. When noise falls, wisdom rises. There is also a softness to quiet that should not be mistaken for weakness. Quiet is not hiding. Quiet is gathering. A musician does not fear silence because silence makes the next note luminous. A craftsman does not fear a clean workbench because it makes the next cut precise. In the same way, a soul that honors quiet becomes a better home for courage. Decisions stop arriving from panic and start arriving from clarity. Boundaries stop sounding like fear and start sounding like love. Integrity stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like a path that actually supports the weight of your life. You become less reactive without becoming passive. You become more selective without becoming cold. The change is noticeable, first on the inside, then in the room around you. There will be resistance. The mind is practiced at the old rhythm and will sell it as safety. It will say that silence means losing momentum. It will say that restraint means missing opportunities. It will say that constant connection is proof you still matter. Yet the body keeps telling the truth in quieter ways. The jaw grinds at night when the day is too full of unfinished beginnings. The breath stays shallow when interruptions rule. Sleep refuses to restore when the mind never lands. Listening to these signals is not self-indulgent, it is stewardship. When you honor what your body and spirit reveal, you do not shrink your life. You strengthen its foundation. The field is prepared before the house is built. The roots are tended before the branches reach. Order before expansion is not a slogan. It is how living things grow. As quiet begins to make a home in your day, you will notice an unexpected courage to face the thoughts that used to chase you. Without the distraction loop, fear loses its camouflage. Grief steps forward without swallowing the room. Desire speaks without dressing itself as drama. You learn to sit with what is true long enough for it to move from noise to knowledge. This is where silence becomes more than the absence of sound. It becomes a teacher. It shows you what you have been postponing and what you have been pretending. It helps you see which needs are real and which are reflex. It helps you sense where energy belongs and where it drains. The lesson is simple and strong. Attention is love, and whatever receives your attention grows. In time, the people around you will notice something they cannot immediately name. Conversations feel calmer even when the topic is heavy. Your presence carries a steadiness that does not need to win. You are slower to agree, and slower to argue, not because you care less, but because you can finally hear more. Trust begins to gather in small ways. Someone shares a harder truth because you do not rush to fill the air. Someone offers an opportunity because your grounded yes now means something. Influence, once stretched thin across distractions, quietly condenses. The room relaxes around you because you are no longer racing it. This quieter rhythm does not erase ambition, it purifies it. Goals remain, but they stop shouting. Drive remains, but it stops dragging you. The deeper aim emerges, and with it a different kind of energy. Work begins to feel like aligned effort rather than heroic rescue. Rest begins to feel like strategic strength rather than guilty escape. Generosity begins to feel like overflow rather than proof of worth. The ancient line about life and death in the power of the tongue takes on new shape here. Fewer words, heavier weight. Fewer promises, stronger trust. Silence is the forge where language gains integrity. Hold this image as the day closes. A small garden at the edge of a busy city. Walls that keep out what does not belong, a gate that welcomes what truly nourishes, a path that leads to a quiet bench where breath remembers its length and heart remembers its courage. Inside that garden, a single candle burns with a steady flame, nothing dramatic, nothing viral, just light that does not flicker at every wind. Quiet, steady, present. The storm has not vanished beyond the walls, but it no longer lives inside them. And that simple shift is the beginning of becoming different in a way that lasts. Excellent. You can continue to the next chapter. Note that the script is 40 minutes long. Do not include emojis, she, colons, shil, numbers, bullet points, symbols, etc. Keep it easy to narrate. Always add a period to titles and subtitles. For example, listen carefully. Add a period. Do not tell them what to do. For example, common mistake, practical exercise, real-life case, serious error, etc. Language builds rooms the body must live in. Every sentence hangs like a window or a curtain. Every phrase opens the air or tightens it. You can feel this in your chest before the mind explains it. A harsh word turns breath shallow. A careful word returns depth to the lungs. Words are not decorations. Words are architecture. They shape the corridors where attention walks, and they set the temperature of a day. I know the ache that comes from promises that outrun capacity, a calendar sprinkled with bright intentions that dim by nightfall, a friend waiting for an answer that never arrives because the mouth leapt ahead of the heart. It is not malice. It is momentum mixed with kindness and a strand of fear that silence might disappoint. Yet the cost accumulates. Trust thins, self-respect frays. The voice inside begins to doubt the voice outside. This is a wound that does not bleed, yet it weakens the grip. Wisdom offers a gentler rhythm, fewer words, heavier weight. Let the sentence arrive slowly enough to be true. Let the vow be small enough to carry. Let silence do its quiet work so that speech can do its holy work. Ancient counsel says life and death travel on the tongue. Neuroscience agrees in a different dialect. The inner alarm eases when the story you speak is measured. The thinking mind steadies when speech stops sprinting ahead of what the body can live. Restraint is not repression. Restraint is respect for reality. There is a dignity in a clean yes and a clean no. A clean yes fits your spine. It aligns with energy and time. It does not borrow from tomorrow. A clean no honors both people by refusing to counterfeit agreement. When these two small words regain their clarity, the nervous system rests, the jaw loosens, the forehead smooths. The day stops asking you to juggle contradictions. The soul stands up a little taller because it is no longer translating between what was said and what can be lived. A vow is a doorway, not a cage. It is the quiet joining of desire and design, not grand, not loud. A promise that can fit in the palm of a hand and still feel royal. When a vow matches reality, it becomes a shelter for courage. When a vow outruns reality, it becomes a shadow that follows you into every room. Better the whisper you can honor than the anthem you cannot carry. Integrity is not spectacle. Integrity is rhythm. It turns speech into substance and turns time into trust. Listen to the music of a room when measured words lead. Conversation slows just enough for meaning to gather. Corrections land without shaming. Appreciation does not feel like currency, but like rain on dry soil. People lean in because presence is not competing with performance. Even disagreement becomes productive when each phrase is chosen with care. The result is not silence for its own sake. The result is language that builds bridges instead of trenches. There is tenderness in choosing the right moment. Some truths ripen only when timing joins them. A pause can be the difference between a wound and a breakthrough. Breath can be the difference between a defensiveness that rises and a curiosity that wakes. The body knows this. The heart knows this. When words come from a settled place, they carry a settled power. When they come from panic, they scatter and then return as regret. Work reveals the economics of speech. A promise is an invoice. Delivery is the payment. Repeated alignment compounds like interest. People begin to sense that your sentences are safe to stand on. Meetings end with clarity instead of a fog of exquisite vocabulary. Plans arrive with edges that can be grasped. Leadership becomes less about volume and more about consistency. Quiet reliability travels farther than dramatic declarations. There is a spiritual hush in treating the voice as sacred. Breath is the first gift, and speech rides on breath. To bless is to bend the arc of a moment toward life. To curse is to bend it toward diminishment. No theatrics are required, only attention, only reverence for the small gate between thought and sound. When that gate is tended, the whole city of your life becomes safer. Boundaries feel less like walls and more like the edges that keep a garden a garden. Anger is fast. Wisdom is slow. Anger wants to win. Wisdom wants to heal. The quick answer often protects ego and sacrifices connection. The patient answer protects connection and humbles ego. This is not weakness. It is strength that has learned to be quiet. It is the strength to withhold a sentence that would feel good for a moment and cost peace for a week. It is the strength to choose language that leaves dignity intact on both sides of the table. Hold the image of a scale on a craftsman's bench. On one side, impulse. On the other side, meaning. Words are placed gently until balance appears. Then the sentence is released and it lands without a thud. In that room, trust thickens. In that life, direction clarifies. In that heart, shame loosens its grip because speech and self have stopped fighting. The weight of words becomes a blessing you can feel in your shoulders and hear in your sleep. Lonely effort can look heroic on the surface while secretly draining the soul beneath it. There is only so much one pair of eyes can see, only so much one nervous system can hold before it starts mistaking urgency for importance. When the room echoes only with your own voice, confidence can quietly become isolation, and momentum can quietly become a loop. Wisdom breaks the loop by inviting light from beyond the self. It sounds simple, and it feels humbling. It is not surrender. It is stewardship of vision. Counsel changes the air the way a window changes a room. Fresh oxygen enters. Hidden drafts become visible. The mind relaxes because every decision no longer has to carry the weight of being perfect on the first try. Emotional storms soften when they are named in the presence of people who keep their footing. The body tells the truth here. Shoulders lower, breath deepens, the jaw loosens. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because guidance replaces guessing. The right voices carry different gifts. An elder offers memory that stretches beyond your horizon and steadies you when your feelings try to call themselves facts. A peer brings companionship inside the same weather and reminds you that struggle is not a sentence. It is a season. A challenger loves you enough to disagree and refuses to let talent outgrow character. Together, these voices form a kind of inner counsel that strengthens judgment without stealing authorship. You remain the one who decides, but you decide with a wiser map. Correction has a sound when it is given in love. It does not sting to humiliate, it stings to awaken. The first heat that rises in the face is not a verdict, it is biology protecting the familiar. Then something kinder arrives. You hear beneath the words and sense the intention that wants your good. Defensiveness loosens, curiosity wakes. The mind stops rehearsing a comeback and starts asking better questions. What was I not seeing? Where did I begin to drift? Which fear was speaking in a louder voice than truth? The craftsman understands how drift works. A line that is almost straight at the start becomes visibly crooked by the end. A tiny angle grows into a wide gap as the distance lengthens. Counsel is the square set against the wood. It realigns before the cut becomes a mistake that costs material, time, and reputation. In this light, correction is not a wound, it is protection. It is the savings account of wisdom that pays interest quietly in the form of fewer crises. There is a deep link between listening and the weight of words. When someone lives in a climate of counsel, speech becomes measured without losing warmth. Promises shrink to a size that reality can carry. Plans gain edges that can be held. Apologies arrive clean when needed and do not drag excuses behind them. People begin to trust that your presence will not punish them for telling you the truth. This trust is slow to gather and powerful once it does. Not every voice qualifies as counsel. The voices that serve you best tend to carry certain marks. They have fruit rather than flash. They carry scars that turned into discernment, not bitterness. They keep confidences. They love you enough to cost you comfort and save you from waste. They are more loyal to your growth than to your image. Around such people, ambition becomes purer and mistakes become teachers rather than headlines. There is a spiritual tenderness inside community that science can recognize in its own language. Isolation taxes the body and shortens patience. Belonging lengthens attention and steadies mood. When you are seen by wise eyes, your nervous system stops scanning every horizon for danger and begins to scan for meaning. Creativity returns not as frenzy, but as flow. Decisions stop arriving as emergencies and start arriving as sequences. You still carry responsibility, but you are no longer carrying it alone. In the long arc of a life, borrowed wisdom gives back time no schedule could have created. It keeps you from entering rooms you would later have to escape. It points to doors that looked small and turned out to be gates. It compresses learning without rushing the soul. Cheap advice is expensive because it leaves you to pay in cleanup. Costly advice is cheap because it saves you from repairs you will never need to make. The difference is felt in the quiet at the end of the day when your head meets the pillow and your mind does not hold court until morning. Hold a simple image, a round table in a modest room, a map spread open, a lamp casting steady light, an elder tracing a safer path with a calm finger, a peer adding what the weather feels like right now, a challenger marking a cliff you had not seen. Your hand rests on the map and your breath finds its pace. Outside, the world is as loud as it was an hour ago. Inside, something essential has changed. You still lead, but you no longer lead alone. Wisdom travels with you, and the road that once felt narrow begins to feel strong under your feet. Prosperity is often imagined as a sudden firework that lights the sky and vanishes just as quickly. Yet the kind that lasts arrives more like a harvest. A field is cleared, seed is planted, soil is tended, and a quiet shield rises around the tender beginning, so wind and wandering feet do not undo the work. Wisdom names this simple pattern without drama. Plant what matters. Guard what is growing. Let time do what adrenaline never could. In this light, prosperity is not a spotlight. It is a rhythm that keeps showing up until roots go deep. Diligence is the steady flame that refuses the storm's invitation to flicker. It is not frantic and it is not slow. It is paced. In a world addicted to spikes of novelty, diligence looks understated, but the nervous system recognizes its goodness right away. The breath evens when the task before you is clear and the mind is not being pulled in every direction. Focus becomes a kind of kindness to your own biology. Effort lands where it can compound. You end the day used rather than used up, and there is a difference your body can feel. Generosity is the warm river that reminds you there is more than self at the center of a life. Without a riverbank, it floods and then recedes in guilt and exhaustion. With a riverbank, it nourishes everything it touches and still leaves water for tomorrow. Giving becomes clean when it rises from alignment rather than anxiety. It becomes joyful rather than theatrical when it is not auditioning for worth. You feel this shift in the way resentment dissolves and gratitude takes its place. You sense that your life is part of a larger circulation that keeps returning what it releases. Boundaries are the quiet walls that keep the garden a garden. They are not anger in disguise. They are clarity with a gentle voice. A healthy no does not bruise relationship. It protects it from promises that would later fray it. A healthy yes does not wobble under weight. It stands because it was chosen by a self that is not scattered. When edges are honored, the soul stops sprinting and starts governing. Peace arrives not as a prize at the end, but as the climate of the day. These three companions do not compete. They complete one another. Diligence provides the rhythm that builds. Generosity keeps the heart from shrinking while it builds. Boundaries protect the building from becoming a burden. Together they form a current that carries you farther than hustle ever did. You move with coherence. Others can feel it. Your presence says more with less, and your life begins to sound like a single song rather than overlapping noise. There is a language, both spiritual and scientific, that speaks the same truth here. When effort is steady and not frantic, the thoughtful part of the mind stays online and choices become wiser. When giving is intentional, the body's warmth systems activate and connection feels safe rather than costly. When edges are clear, the inner alarms rest, and energy that once fueled constant vigilance becomes available for creation and care. The soul calls this order. Neuroscience calls it regulation. Both point to the same miracle of a life that stops wasting itself. Picture the craftsman in a quiet workshop. The bench is clean. The tools are few and honest. Each cut follows the grain and respects the wood. Nothing rushed. Nothing wasted. That is diligence. Picture a candle left burning in the window for a traveler on a cold night. No fanfare, just steady light. That is generosity. Picture a doorway that stands open to friends while the walls stand firm against weather. That is a boundary. These images are simple because truth is simple when fear is not holding the pen. Leaks become obvious in this climate. The late-night habit that steals tomorrow's strength. The gossip that spends relational capital and returns emptier than it arrived. The endless scroll that offers sugar to a starving focus and leaves it hungrier. Naming these leaks does not shame you. It frees you. With a shield in place, energy stops escaping through hidden seams. With seed in the ground, purpose stops waiting for perfect conditions. The future no longer depends on miracles. It depends on stewardship. People begin to trust the space you carry. You do not buy influence with noise. You earn it with reliability. Money starts to feel like a servant again because order has returned and fear has left the command seat. Time starts to feel like a friend again because attention is not bleeding into everything at once. Even rest changes flavor. It is no longer an escape you sneak. It is a practice that strengthens the work it follows. Hold the image of a walled garden at dusk. In the center, the soil is dark and ready, seeded with what you want to see grow. Around it, a shield of stone that has learned to say yes and no with tenderness. Along the path, small lamps that speak of a generous spirit that has room to give without losing itself. Overhead, the first stars appear, and the air carries the quiet of a place that belongs to someone who belongs to wisdom. Nothing frantic. Nothing fragile, a life planted and protected, a harvest already on its way. Picture the journey as a river that gathers strength as it moves. At the source there is quiet water, clear and still, a tender beginning that rinses the noise from the stones. As the river widens, it finds banks that guide it, not walls that confine it. Further on, the flow grows deeper and slower, power without splash, direction without frenzy. By the time it reaches open country, it carries what the land needs and keeps enough within itself to continue. This is the shape of 8 days held by wisdom, nothing theatrical, everything essential. The first movement is subtraction. The air becomes softer when the storm of inputs fades. In that softness, attention stops scattering and begins to settle. Breath lengthens. Thoughts stop shouting over one another and start arriving in an orderly line. What once felt like emptiness reveals itself as presence. The quiet does not erase responsibility, it renders it visible. You can finally see what actually matters because static no longer pretends to be signal. The second movement is order. Time finds its throne and energy bows to a sequence that makes sense. Effort stops paying a hidden tax to chaos. The day becomes a set of rooms that carry purpose instead of a hallway of alarms. Money regains dignity as a servant. Small acts done in a steady rhythm recover authorship, the art of owning a life rather than being owned by it. Inside this calm architecture, pressure no longer dictates the plan. Values do. The third movement is speech made honest. Fewer words, heavier weight. A clean yes and a clean no turn the spine into a straight road. The mouth no longer writes checks that the life cannot cash. Promises fit reality, and reality strengthens promises in return. Conversation slows into meaning. Apologies shed their costumes. Trust thickens, not through volume, but through reliability that can be felt without announcement. The fourth movement is community that corrects without crushing. Elder memory steadies, peer companionship warms. Brave challenge guards the edges. Decisions no longer carry the lonely burden of perfection on the first attempt. Drift is noticed while it is still small. Detours are spared before they become headlines. Confidence becomes quieter and truer because it rests on counsel rather than on willpower alone. The fifth movement is strength that gives and guards. Diligence turns effort into a candle that does not flicker, a steady flame rather than a firework. Generosity becomes a river with banks, warm and sustainable. Boundaries keep tenderness from dissolving into exhaustion. Prosperity feels less like luck and more like a harvest that continues because the field is tended and the gate is watched. All 5 movements weave into one current. Quiet makes order possible. Order makes speech trustworthy. Trustworthy speech makes community safe. Community gives courage to practice diligence, generosity, and boundaries without apology. Then, the cycle strengthens itself. The calm inside you begins to redesign the rooms around you. People breathe easier in your presence. Work lands where it can compound. Rest becomes a strength rather than a rescue. You may notice a different posture as this current gathers. The brow smooths even when the clock is full. The jaw relaxes even when the stakes are high. The gaze brightens without the glitter of performance. This is not denial of difficulty. This is coherence. The parts of you no longer work against each other. Your attention and your intention stand in the same place. Your values and your calendar face the same direction. Your words and your actions share the same route. The mirror at the end of this path will still be honest. It will also be kinder. It will show the same face lit from a steadier source, the same life arranged with wiser gravity, the same calling carried with less drag and more grace. What changes is the climate, the inner weather that used to shift with every headline and every ring. What arrives is seasonality, a rhythm that can hold both sun and storm without losing the song. Hold this whole river in your mind. A quiet spring, a guided flow, a deep middle, a generous reach, a guarded bank. This is how 8 days can make you unrecognizable to your old patterns while making you more recognizable to your truest self. Not by spectacle, by order, not by force, by alignment, not by noise, by the wisdom that has always known how a life is built to flourish. When the room grows quiet, certain questions begin to breathe. They do not accuse, they reveal. Where does silence feel most like medicine in your day? Is it the moment before the house wakes or the hour when evening light rests on the wall? Notice the pull toward distraction and the gentler pull toward presence. Which one leaves your chest softer? Which one gives your eyes more sky? Time tells the truth when it is not rushed. Which moments in your week actually build your field, and which only look like building because they keep your hands busy? If you stepped back one arm's length from the calendar, what would shine and what would fade? What appointments exist because fear scheduled them? What small, steady action would return more than it costs? Language shapes the air you breathe. Which words in your life have grown too light to carry trust? Which sentence still sits heavy because it was said in a hurry? If your voice slowed to match your heart, what promise would shrink until it fit your real strength? What apology would lose its decorations and finally land clean? What vow is waiting to be born simple and strong? Counsel changes the map you think you know, whose eyes offer you memory longer than your own, whose shoulder shares the weather of the present without adding storm, who loves you enough to name the cliff before your foot reaches it. Which conversation would spare you an expensive detour if it happened sooner? Where could courage borrow wisdom and feel more whole? Generosity wants to flow, and boundaries want to hold. Where does giving feel warm and sustainable, and where does it leave a bitter aftertaste that tells you a line was crossed? What tender yes deserves a gate to protect it? What gentle no would keep the garden a garden? If your care had riverbanks, where would the water finally nourish instead of flood? The body carries messages the mind forgets to read. What does your breath tell you in a crowded room? What do your shoulders say when you promise too much? How does your sleep respond when your day respects order? If peace could be measured in posture, what would shift first? The brow, the jaw, the gaze. Let the body's quiet vocabulary help translate the soul. Every story has a center. What sits at the center of yours right now? Image or integrity, noise or wisdom, speed or sequence? If you lifted one stone of habit, what root would you find beneath it? Fear of missing, fear of being seen, fear of not being enough. Which fear loosens when truth is spoken slowly and boundaries are honored without apology? Hold the morning of day 9 in your mind. The mirror is unchanged and yet the light is different. What has left the room that never belonged there? What has entered that you had been too busy to welcome? Which relationships feel safer because your words regained weight? Which doors stand open because counsel shortened the road? Which fields are finally tended and which harvests have quietly begun? There is a room inside the day where light arrives without noise. The door stands open and the air is kind. A bench waits by a window. The world goes on beyond the walls, yet here the pace is slower and the sound is softer. Shoulders settle. The chest remembers depth. The mind loosens its grip on every unfinished storyline and lets them rest on a nearby shelf. Nothing is forced. Nothing is rushed. Presence returns like a familiar friend who never stopped looking for you. In the quiet, a garden takes shape. Dark soil holds the memory of rain. A small path curves toward the center where a simple stone rests, warm from the light. Around the edges, a living wall keeps the wind polite and asks the world to whisper. The garden is not a picture of escape. It is a picture of order. What belongs here is welcomed. What steals from the roots remains outside. The body understands this without explanation. Muscles that were bracing begin to trust the air again. The heart's rhythm lengthens into something gentle and steady. On the stone rests a crown, not a symbol of spectacle, but of responsibility worn without panic. It carries the weight of authority that begins with self-government. When the inner world is ruled with kindness and courage, the outer world does not need to be conquered to feel safe. Beside the crown sits a scale, its plates quiet, its balance true. On one side lies impulse, on the other side lies meaning. Words will pass through this place and find their weight before crossing the lips. Promises will pause here until they fit the spine. Close by rests a sword in its sheath. It is not for noise. It is for protection. It guards the edges of the garden, so tenderness is not mistaken for permission to trespass. Across the path, a small ledger lies open to a clean page. Lines wait for truthful ink. Not the kind that shouts large plans, the kind that honors small consistencies. Diligence is written here as calm repetition. Giving is written here as warm intention. Boundaries are written here as edges that keep love from losing its shape. The page does not demand. It invites alignment between what is valued and what is lived. Each line becomes a quiet agreement with reality and a quiet relief to the body that carries it. Near the ledger, a single ant moves with patient certainty. It does not perform, it continues. Grain by grain, strength gathers into shelter. The lesson is older than language and more modern than any method. Small, steady, honest. A little attention reclaimed from noise. A little order established where chaos used to live. A little speech cleaned until it can hold trust. A little counsel welcomed before drift becomes damage. A little work done well, and a little gift given warm, both protected by edges that honor the whole. Light shifts across the garden and paints a slow circle on the stone. Breath follows the circle, in and out, long and even, a tide that washes the nervous system and leaves the sand smooth. The jaw releases its armor. The brow unlearns the habit of constant scanning. The chest begins to feel like a safe room again. Unhurried breaths make space for unhurried thoughts. In that space, memory and hope sit down together without arguing about what is possible. The crown is lifted for a moment, not to impress an audience, but to remind the inner world that leadership begins close to home. The scale steadies, and the tongue remembers that language shapes reality. The sheathed sword stands by, and boundaries feel less like walls and more like the kindness that keeps gardens alive. The ledger receives a single honest line written from a settled place, not a grand vow that will fray under heat, a sentence that the day can carry without wobbling. The ant continues, and something like peace takes root, because there is no rush to prove anything. Beyond the walls, life remains complex, yet the garden teaches how to meet complexity without becoming it. Stillness does not erase storms. It trains the body to keep its footing while weather moves through. Order does not cancel pressure. It organizes strength, so pressure does not steal what matters. Measured speech does not silence passion. It gives passion a frame that will not crack. Counsel does not shrink authority. It multiplies it by removing the waste of preventable mistakes. Diligence, generosity, and boundaries do not make a life small. They make it strong enough to love without losing itself. In this room, time feels like a companion rather than a judge. Minutes open like hands and offer what they carry. The present stops sprinting toward the next alert and becomes wide enough to live in. The body learns again that safety can be felt from the inside. The mind learns again that clarity can grow when the soil is quiet. The spirit learns again that wisdom is not far away. It is near, and it speaks softly, and it stays when invited. The ritual ends the way dawn ends, by simply becoming day. The bench remains, the crown rests, the scale waits, the sword keeps its silent post, the ledger holds its line, the ant continues. The garden remembers your steps and keeps the path clean. When you rise, the room does not close behind you. It travels with you like a climate. Meetings feel different under this sky. Conversations find new temperature. Decisions take the shape of coherence. And the mirror that will greet you on the morning beyond these 8 days will know by the light in your eyes that something real has taken root and that it is already growing. There comes a moment when the world outside has not changed, and yet the air around you feels different. It happens the way dawn happens, not with a shout, with a slow revealing of what was always waiting to be seen. You notice that your breath no longer asks permission. It arrives with its own courage. You notice that your thoughts no longer run like scattered birds. They circle and land. The mirror offers the same face and a new light, the same features and a different climate, the same story and a clearer voice telling it. What changed is not a single achievement that begs for applause. What changed is the posture of a life. Noise moved from the center to the edges. Order returned like a careful gardener. Words found their honest weight. Community placed a lamp on the map. Strength learned to give without bleeding and to guard without closing. These are not trophies. They are tools. They are the simple instruments that make a complicated world livable again. You can feel the kindness in your own pace. The calendar stops sounding like a threat. It begins to sound like a companion. Time opens a chair and invites you to sit with what matters before the hurry can dress itself as importance. Money stops acting like a judge that measures your worth. It returns to its work as a servant that carries your values into the week. Relationships shift one conversation at a time. Less theater, more truth, fewer fireworks, more warmth that actually lasts. Confidence changes flavor when it is born from alignment. It stops needing to be loud. It stops chasing attention. It stands with a quiet readiness that can walk into complex rooms without losing its center. People sense the difference. They do not always have language for it. They feel it in the way you listen. They feel it in the way you speak. They feel it in the way you leave a space better than you found it. Not through performance, but through presence. The body bears witness to this turning. The shoulders are no longer a shelf for stress. The jaw remembers it belongs to a human and not a hinge. Sleep begins to mend rather than merely pause the day. Appetite steadies. Focus stops asking for sugar and learns to draw strength from depth. These are modest changes to an untrained eye. To a weary heart, they are a river in dry country. The smallest reliefs compound into real recovery. Prosperity also changes meaning here. It becomes something you carry rather than something you chase. It looks like a field tended before big plans are announced. It looks like work that lands where it can multiply. It looks like giving that lifts others without sinking you. It looks like boundaries that keep tenderness alive. You are not shrinking your world. You are strengthening its walls so joy can remain inside and storms can stay outside. There is a spiritual hush in such a life. You begin to trust that wisdom has never been far. It waited at the edges of your days until your attention was ready to see it. It waited in quiet rooms and simple rituals. It waited in truths you already knew, but could not hear over the volume of everything else. Now those truths can speak again. They speak of restraint that keeps you whole. They speak of order that frees rather than binds. They speak of speech that heals. They speak of counsel that saves time and pain. They speak of strength that holds and gives in equal measure. The people who love you will feel safer around you. They will bring you more of their truth because you do not punish it. They will bring you more of their hope because you carry your own hope with steadiness. Doors will open that never opened to noise. Rooms will welcome you because you are no longer asking them to complete you. Work will recognize you because your presence now carries the unmistakable scent of someone who can be trusted with weight. There will still be storms. There will still be deadlines and disappointments and days that press hard on the edges of your peace. The difference is that you no longer greet them as a scattered self. You meet them arranged. You meet them gathered. You meet them as a person whose inner government has returned. The crown rests easy. The garden stays tended. The scale keeps its quiet measure. The sword remains sheathed until love requires a line. The ledger holds its small, honest lines that turn into a life you are no longer apologizing for living. This is how 8 days become more than a schedule. This is how they become a threshold. You step across and notice that the room on the other side is not louder or brighter. It is truer. The same path looks new because your feet are different. The same responsibilities feel lighter because your hands are stronger. The same future stops feeling like a rumor and starts feeling like a home you're already building stone by stone. Hold a final image as the day closes. A window open to evening, a calm sky holding both the last gold of the sun and the first silver of the stars. Inside the room, a steady flame that does not flicker at every passing wind. You stand with that light and it stands with you. Then a question rises that carries the whole journey in a single breath. Who will you become now that wisdom sits where urgency used to sit? Stay with the image of the morning beyond these 8 days. The light is gentle and the room is calm. The mirror keeps its honesty and adds mercy. The same face meets you, yet the current beneath it has shifted. Breath carries steadiness. Thought carries order. Words carry weight. What once scattered you now circles and holds. There is space for courage to stand without armor and for tenderness to remain without being trampled. This is how a life begins to feel like home again. The path ahead does not ask for spectacle. It asks for the same quiet agreements that brought you here. Agreements with silence that clears the signal. Agreements with order that frees energy to serve what matters. Agreements with language that turns promises into shelter. Agreements with counsel that shortens the road. Agreements with strength that both gives and guards, so love can last. None of this shouts. All of it endures. And endurance is how beauty becomes character rather than mood. You may notice that rooms receive you differently now. Meetings breathe. Conversations warm more quickly and cool more slowly. Offers that once glittered without substance lose their hold, while opportunities that match your center begin to reveal themselves with a modest glow. People trust the steadiness you carry because it was not borrowed from performance. It was grown through alignment. Influence becomes a byproduct of coherence, not a prize wrestled from noise. There is a sweetness in ordinary moments when wisdom sits at the center. The first sip of morning water tastes like permission to begin without hurry. The walk from one room to another feels like a small pilgrimage because attention is no longer prey. A simple exchange at a doorway holds more truth than a long debate because your yes and your no have found their clean edges. Even rest changes its accent. It sounds less like escape and more like quiet strength returning to its seat. The world will remain fast in many places, yet you now carry a different weather. It travels with you like a sky that does not collapse at the first change of wind. You make choices that match the crown and the garden you have tended. You repair what needs repair without shame and release what no longer belongs without ceremony. You stand where you stand with a grace that does not apologize for being steady. This is not an argument against ambition. It is the kind of ambition that can look children and elders in the eye without flinching. If this way of living has met you with relief, there is room to keep walking together. There are more rivers to map and more rooms to light, not with noise, but with the same patient flame that led you through these days. The wisdom that reached across centuries to find you is not finished speaking. It does not rush, and it does not fade. It waits at the edges of every ordinary hour, ready to shape it into something whole. Before the day moves on, hold once more the soft question that has been rising since the beginning. Who are you becoming as wisdom takes the seat where urgency used to sit? Let that question keep the door open. Let it keep the air kind. Let it keep the mirror honest and merciful at once. And as you step forward, carry this quiet assurance. A life arranged around what is true will always find its way.